The president continued to fire away at Britain's ambassador to the U.S. today. This dust-up started when someone leaked cables from the ambassador that were highly critical of the Trump White House. Here's Major Garrett.
Breaking news from Ottawa. Relations between Canada and the United States have entered one of their most dangerous phases in decades. What was once one of the world's closest alliances is now facing a full-scale diplomatic and economic crisis. At the center of it all, a U.S. ambassador's explosive behavior, a tariff war hurting ordinary families, and a breakdown of trust that experts warn could damage both economies for years.
Anthony Albanese has met US President Donald Trump in a face-to-face meeting at the White House this morning. The two leaders signed a major $8.5 billion rare earths deal.
The spark came from an extraordinary diplomatic incident in Ottawa. The U.S. ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, personally appointed by Donald Trump, publicly insulted Ontario's trade representative during an official event at the National Gallery of Canada. Witnesses say the ambassador loudly berated the Canadian official in front of dozens of guests, behavior widely described as unprofessional and unprecedented. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, normally friendly toward U.S. interests, responded immediately, demanding a formal apology and calling the behavior unacceptable for an ambassador. Instead of backing down, the ambassador doubled down. Days later, Hoekstra publicly defended his actions, saying this was exactly how the Trump administration intended to deal with Canada. The controversy intensified when Ontario aired an advertisement during the World Series using a 1987 Ronald Reagan speech, warning that tariffs harm American workers. The ad simply replayed Reagan's words. Nothing altered. Donald Trump responded by calling the ad fake and threatening to raise tariffs on Canada from 35% to 45%. For many Canadians, this was no longer a policy dispute. It was a warning sign. Trump has used emergency powers to impose sweeping tariffs on Canadian goods, claiming fentanyl as a national emergency, despite data showing most fentanyl enters through the southern border, not Canada. Here's the critical truth many people misunderstand. Tariffs are not paid by Canada. They are paid by American companies at the border, and those costs are passed directly to consumers. According to economic studies, these tariffs amount to an average $1,200 per year for American households, the largest effective tax increase in decades. This is no longer theoretical. A century-old Michigan manufacturer, Howard Miller, shut down after tariffs made key imported components unaffordable, costing nearly 200 workers their jobs. U.S. tourism is projected to lose $29 billion as Canadian visits drop for 10 straight months. Agricultural exports from states like Michigan have collapsed, hitting Republican-leaning communities that once strongly supported Trump. On the Canadian side, businesses are freezing investment, cutting expansion plans, and preparing for prolonged economic pain. At the heart of the crisis is something even bigger than tariffs. The U.S.-Canada-Mexico trade agreement, signed and praised by Trump himself, was designed to ensure tariff-free trade. Legal experts now warn that bypassing it through emergency powers could permanently damage America's credibility with its allies. If agreements can be discarded this easily, no trade deal is truly safe. First, the conduct of the U.S. ambassador has caused severe diplomatic damage. Second, tariffs are making ordinary Americans poorer while pushing Canada toward recession. Third, this crisis is weakening trust in the United States across the world. What happens next will shape Canada-U.S. relations for years to come. And for now, the cost is already being paid on both sides of the border.